Yeah, so Officer Morelli?
Yeah.
Morelli?
You can't make this stuff up. Do you believe that, Officer Morelli?
Officer Morelli came over just to say hello, and he's touring the park and going to make sure, whatever, just said hello. So we were right in the middle of the prayer. I come up, open my eyes and see this officer standing right there. And then we turned around, said hello, turned around and did the Pledge of Allegiance, and then he started asking some questions.
He starts asking innocuous questions, but there was a comment made on his wearable radio that somebody was saying, "Oh, those are the guys from the Northern Neck Regional Jail."
Right.
So they knew who we were.
Yeah, they're aware.
They're aware, and I'm not disheartened by that. They didn't do anything, so at least here locally, folks understand what the Constitution is. I think.
And he listened when we told him what we're about.
He actually did. He actually seemed a little bit interested, although his personality is a little bit.
He doesn't watch TV. He's not.
He plays computer games all night long until the wee hours of the morning. By his own admission, folks. I'm not trying to pick on it.
So in case none of our stuff got recorded to begin with, this is day 897 of the January 6th saga. This is June 23rd, 2023. I'm not going to reread the names of everybody again, but we were highlighting a few important things. Tommy Tatum's testimony at Brian Mock's trial just this week was amazing. And you can look that up on Gateway Pundit. The person's name who wrote the article was just yesterday, I believe. He's Wiseman, Wizemann, something like that. And it's fascinating. Mel Hawley's quoted in there. Mel Hawley, who I think everybody here knows, you met her, right? You met her at the Tea Party. You met her. And Ron probably met her when she came out with Randy and Mickey at one point. But she does podcasts. Justice in Jeopardy. Sovereign Souls is her.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, Sovereign Souls is her website. And she's probably interviewed more January 6ers than just about anyone, and their families. So it was cool. I saw her in court for Mason Corson's sentencing last week, and we got to talk a little bit. And then I did an interview with her, which I mentioned to you, and I saw that. Yeah. So she's just constantly doing stuff. But Tommy Tatum, that was so impressive because Tommy Tatum was one of the first people to come here to the Northern Neck when we first started our vigils back in October. And he spoke then about laying in the I guess we call it the East Tunnel, crushed or trapped underneath masses of bodies in the depot that the cops finally pushed back and shoved everyone. When Roseanne Boylan fell down and was on the bottom, and then Officer Miles, is that right? I think so. Apparently continued to beat her and beat on her with a nightstick, and Tommy Tatum saw that whole event 8 feet away from him. So he's got a lot that he's been carrying around with him for 2 years, 2+ years, 897 days, and or 896 yesterday. And I'm so happy to hear this stuff come out. It's just like Tariq Johnson, the Capitol Police officer, who was the conservative, who we talked about him last time, how he was ordered by someone in authority to go round up police helmets that were expired, to round up 30 or 40 helmets just before January 6th.
Yeah.
You know,
How
so,
does that work?
Right.
New sentences are coming up next.
Thank you for that question. Next couple of sentences that I'm tracking, but again, I missed Daniel Rodriguez. I just missed his, where he got 12.5 years. So that was just 2 days ago. But next that I know of is Barry Ramey, who has been a really great and dedicated caller here almost every time. So maybe we'll hear from him. Now last week, You remember he called, and then they said, well, we got to go because we're going to go to our Hopium Club.
I remember that.
We said, what's a Hopium Club? He said, well, it's a little thing like people did, you know, in prisoner war camps or whatever. They just get together, they you know, do little play acts and things like that. They just do stuff to kind of take their minds away from the place. And so I really want to hear about
Steve McQueen.
yeah, what they were doing. So
And when is that?
they were doing it, what?
When is the next sentencing?
Barry Ramey's is July 6th.
July 6th.
And then I have Jonathan Munafo, August 29th, Daryl Neely, 9/5. Daryl Neely would be interesting to hear. Daryl Neely, if you remember, he's really animated. He called, I think, only once and talked to us, maybe twice, but he apparently has some sort of social following and a radio broadcast and all that kind of stuff. And he was really animated. He goes, and, you know, he's like, wait for it. And I actually saw him when I was down in D.C. Court, being transported, you know, down the hallway in his shackles, ankle shackles and wrist shackles, to a courtroom where he was headed. And he looked back over his shoulder, and I waved to him, and he gave the thumbs up sign. I don't think he knew, of course, who I was, but he's a very interesting character. So it'd be fun to be there and support him. Anyway, I think that, the other thing was that we're now up to 50, and 50 people that we know of that went through J6, went through Northern Neck Regional Jail, J6ers. 2 additional ones that Sherry found in her files. Thomas Robertson, who was a sheriff or deputy sheriff in Southwest Virginia, was reported by one of his fellow officers. And then Matthew Green. So we're up to 50 individuals that we know of that have been through there.
So there's a lot of good stories coming out, but the one that at least today, give me a couple days of not saying, because everything happens so fast, but you got a guy that's willing to give up a couple of constitutional rights and risk personal liberty risks in order to tell the truth. We need more of that, because if we can't put it at risk personally, these are constitutional rights. Then what does it all really mean to anybody? I mean, if you're not willing to risk it, I think back to the founders. You know, by today's standards, more than half of the founders would be considered billionaires, and they put it all on the line. All of it. Some of them didn't survive. And they did it for a reason. You don't get people like that just put it all on the line for no good reason. It was from the perspective of the average person looking at a billionaire laying it on the line like that and putting everything at risk. That's not a selfish act. That's a selfless act. So when I hear stories about guys like this that are willing to, with apparently the FBI agents ominously in audience, that takes some serious fortitude, some anatomical correctness that a lot of people don't appear to have.
So you're talking about Tommy Tatum.
Yes.
I'm going to pull that up again and reread that. But I want to hear what you were saying about Thomas Nelson.
Thomas Nelson. Thomas Nelson was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. I'm almost certain that his home is in Yorktown, Virginia, and the plaque on his home there said that he vowed to spend his whole fortune defending our liberties and our nation, and he died a pauper. He lost everything he had in the fight for justice and freedom and liberties.
Thank you for that. I think that it's something that gives me pause to think about when we talked about the Leedstown Resolves as well, which was 1766, I believe.
Oh, yes.
It was against the Stamp Act.
Right.
And it was in Leedstown, Virginia, which is Westmoreland County, right next door. And basically, they came together and said that, and signed a document basically pledging their lives and fortunes and protection of one another, in their sacred honor, to oppose it, and they did. So that was pretty fascinating too. So here's the article again from Gateway Pundit, Sean Bradley Weitzman, Witzmann, June 22nd. A January 6th trial in D.C. recessed for the next 3 weeks after shocking testimony by defense witness Tommy Tatum and defendant Brian Mock nearly derailed proceedings, leaving members of the gallery stunned. I witnessed the murder of Roseanne Boylan by Officer Lila Morris, said Miles. Tatum repeatedly testified, according to courtroom observer Mel Hawley. Chief District Judge James Boasberg expressed discontent with Tatum's repeated statements, reportedly putting his hands in the air and saying, "I'm not going to indulge in this make-believe." Due to his known presence at the Capitol on January 6th, Tatum was counseled by a public defender at the suggestion of the court. The public defender advised Tatum that he would be waiving his Fifth Amendment rights if he chose to testify. Tatum proceeded anyway. U.S. attorneys then proceeded to grill Tatum over what some believe to be incendiary behavior on the Lower West Terrace that day. "Hey, tough guy," Tatum was heard saying to police in his own video, which was exhibited by prosecutors. "Take their helmets." The prosecution asked Tatum if it was his voice in the video. Tatum admitted it was, prompting Judge Boasberg to inquire about claims that he was there as a member of the press. "You were there as an independent journalist?" Judge Boasberg asked Tatum skeptically. Prosecution went on to cross-examine Tatum about his views on whether the 2020 election was stolen, implying he was there to stop the process of certification, presumably laying the groundwork for a future 1512 felony obstruction charge. Interestingly, courtroom observer Mel Hawley reports that what appeared to be 5 FBI agents entered the courtroom just before Tatum testified, ominously lurking throughout his testimony, only leaving after he was dismissed. Pro se defendant Brian Mock then took the stand, eager to speak in his own defense. Mock testified to his state of mind that day, his mostly moderate political leanings, and negative personal experiences during the 2020 George Floyd riots in his home state of Minnesota. Mock further described the circumstances surrounding each of his 4 alleged assaults on law enforcement, one of which was reduced to not include a dangerous weapon by Judge Boasberg the previous day. Upon realizing that Mock was nowhere near finished with his testimony, Judge Boasberg declared a recess. After consulting with prosecutors and defendant Brian Mock, proceedings were scheduled to resume on July 11th. We should get that on our calendar because I think this sounds interesting. He's a pro se defendant. I think that's pretty interesting. In a post-proceeding statement to Mel Hawley, Mock said, "After 2 years of this ordeal, I'm happy to be able to finally state the truth about what happened on January 6th, for the record."
That's exactly what I'm talking about, right there. I've had conversations with my mother who, she's an ostrich. And about a year ago, she started explaining how she started to see things that are wrong. She doesn't have the background, she doesn't have the details, she's still kind of asleep. Her entire view on politics is, I don't like Trump. I'll vote for anybody but Trump, and it doesn't matter what that costs. I'm not going to vote for Trump. And I explained to her that if she can admit that she sees things that are wrong, and I'm telling her that I don't want to be around if this thing goes south and we don't win. I don't want to be around, so that means I'm kind of motivated to put it all on the line. Just saying. You know, if you're not, I mean, what do you expect to have happen when the curtain finally falls on this stage? If our heroes don't win. What are you gonna hope for after that? You don't get to just go home. You're gonna lose everything. Everything. You may not even be able to comprehend what that everything means. But if you're not willing to stand up for it, nobody's gonna hand it to you in the end. And that's kind of important. So we've got this guy Tatum, who's up there, basically, from what I can tell, thinking the same thing. And in the face of 5 ominous, supposedly FBI agents hanging out just long enough for him to open his mouth and sink his ship, if they want to come and grab him, we need to pay attention to that, will they? Here you go.
So I just wanted to jump in on that. I've been to 4 sentencing so far, including Stewart Rhodes, and FBI may have been embedded in the audience to some degree,
Yeah.
but that was a showing. Bringing 5 people in there as he's ready to testify was completely intimidation.
Yeah, and he knew that. he was fully aware, and he did it. All right, so now the chickens are showing up.
The chickens have come to
This is
the
awesome.
Chicks for J6.
Chicks for J6. Here we are. Look at that, birds of a feather. Oh my.
That's Blue. He's representing chicks for J6. And
Here's,
what they
here's,
say, advocating for J6, no cages for J6ers and let the J6ers
free range, yes. I love that. I love that. So, is he gonna be a roaster or?
He's our mascot.
Yeah, he's a man, or she, I think it's a she. I hope
She's a
she.
mascot?
Yeah, I don't need any more roosters.
That's awesome. That's just awesome. So on other notes, there's been a great deal of
You're gonna
She's
be-
preening herself.
No, okay, yes, he does.
we're gonna go with it, she.
Huh? Okay.
Yeah. So, not to leave, so the J6 thing is always one facet of a much larger fight. So a little update on what's been happening with North Orange County. We've had, I mentioned a couple weeks ago that they were trying to impose a 23% increase on the real estate taxes in Northumberland County because the school board seemed to think at the time that it was a good idea to jack up their budget by something on the order of more than $6 million. Now, for those of you in big cities, that doesn't sound like much, but here in Mayberry RFD, that's a lot of money. Anyhow, so we had sent out notifications, got a group of us to post signs out on the county borders saying that they were doing this. We ended up getting 25% of the Northumberland County population to show up in a Board of Supervisors meeting. 25%. So ever since that evening, there have been working sessions, and we sat there meeting by meeting, observing the county reducing the county's budgets to include EMS and sheriffs and others reducing their budgets in the interest of not imposing upgraded taxes on the citizens. All while the school board wasn't really participating other than having a few speaking heads show up and talk to a microphone. But finally, last night, at the Board of Supervisors' demands, the school board showed up with 4 options. And if you know anything about presentations, you know that the last option is the one that is most desired by everybody involved. At least it's the most rational one, and that was the case last night. And they basically flat funded the schools at last year's budget rate, but they included in it another $667,000 so that the teachers and the school bus drivers could get a pay raise But that was money that was already in the coffers, that should have been available to give the teachers and the bus drivers a pay raise 3 years ago, that they didn't seem to understand was already there. And it's a relatively complex system. I don't want anybody thinking that just because the school board asked for it doesn't mean that it's just that simple. It's a pretty complicated system. But in the end, the people showed up. There were probably 20 people that spoke on that first night. 3 of them were me. Well, the crowd said that they wanted the first guy to get back up repeatedly, so that was me. But the point is that the people came together, they showed up, and enough of them continued to go to the working sessions. And this is the real important part, folks. You really have to participate. You need to be able to commit some personal time, step away from the Game Boy, and go down to your Board of Supervisors meeting, go to your school board meetings. And trust me, it's okay if you don't want to run to be on the school board or the Board of Supervisors, because your voice is much more effective as a private citizen than it is as an elected official. And we'll talk about that more on another day. But bottom line is, the people won. Real estate taxes are not going to go up. And we've opened the door for citizens to participate in an analysis of processes and tools to figure out not just how bad the current conditions are for doing their jobs, but to be able to do the right thing by, okay, you've got a problem here, and here's a few suggestions on how you can fix it. I don't like always yanking somebody's chain about stuff that's wrong without at least trying to offer a suggestion on how to fix it. So the doors are opened on that one. We're going to pursue that. It may take several months to actually come up with a set of suggestions that can help the county do better reporting to the public. But that's where we are on that particular point, in the middle of yet another election year for the Board of Supervisors. That's where we are today. Now you know the rest of it. By the way, this is just small town USA. Everybody in any town USA needs to be working towards the same type of goals. Just saying.
Yeah, that's really important, and I think about it because there's always something to say in front of your Board of Supervisors meeting. You know, you could just go in there and tell them you think you're doing a great job. Larry, you've done that how many times? I mean, you know, you give them a little sugar with a little bit of vinegar, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they get all nuggle, ain't they?
Yeah. And there's some people that are there all the time that are always, you know, just bringing up whatever the particular issue is, but these people, they listen to the public. They take it seriously. Do they do anything about it? I don't know, but they certainly allow you to have your few minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, to say what's on your mind. So I think that's really great advice, Maurice, that people need to get involved and go there and just watch the process, even if you don't speak. Get up there and talk about it.
So you have to, if you're not there, you don't know. And a lot of folks that have been on social media understand and comment when I say, when you know, you know. So you get it, right? I don't need to elaborate on that last comment. But, and I tell people in my hometown down the road here that you need to show up. You need to take the 2 hours out of your personal time once a month and show up for a Board of Supervisors meeting. Just sit there. On a good day, it should be boring as hell. On a bad day, you need to be there so you can say something. They tend to follow Robert's Rules of Order, so you don't want to get mad at them if they've closed a particular public hearing and you want to talk about it after they've closed it. But understand the system, understand how it works, go in there, sit down, listen, talk, not just with the Board of Supervisors, but with your neighbors that didn't show up with you. So that's what you have to do. If the American people don't want to participate at minimum in their local government, what do you want? What is it you're going to stand for? Anyhow, so what is our mascot's name?
I don't know,
Lou.
Officer
Lou,
Morelli.
it could be Lou Ann, or if it turns out to be a boy, it could be Louie, but I just call her
So-
Lou.
But, go ahead, explain it.
The chick's name is Lou. We don't know if it's a hen. I hope it's a hen. So her name could be Luann. Turns out to be a rooster. His name could be Louie. Basically, it's just
Seems to be
Lou.
rather fastidious. I'm watching this bird clean its feet.
I love
Probably a
it.
girl.
Advocating for J6ers, no cages for J6ers, let J6ers free range. These guys are gonna love it. Sherry, have you sent that in to anybody? You should.
No, I thought maybe if they called in, you could tell them
Yeah.
that the chick's out here. Lou's out here to support them.
Great idea, that's so true, yeah.
Chicks for J6.
Representing all the American chickens, there's no, that they should be free ranging.
Free range J6ers, for sure.
See if I can get a better shot. She is,
Officer Morelli over here came by and visited with us a little earlier, right when we were doing the invocation, and I opened my eyes from the prayer, and the officer standing right there. So we said hello, we turned around and did a pledge of allegiance, and then he just started talking to us, just wanted to know what was going on. But he was communicating, he was live mic, so somebody spoke over his intercom. Oh yeah, those are the people that are at the jail, the one that, so they knew who we were, what we were doing here.
These are also,
Town police, yeah. He just pulled in here real fast and he actually, there he is. I guess he had to use the bathroom, so that's what he did.
there's no problem. They probably call Sheriff Smith, that's all.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
great.
over town, so I mean, you know. Yeah.
So, doing a little bit of quick math in my head, if you were to have a stand here at the pavilion, about right here, if you could have a microphone right here at this level, you wouldn't have to pass it around, everybody would be heard. Just saying. Yep, it would work perfect. Well, you can just test it out now, when you look at this section of the video, you'll be able to hear me. It's pretty straight up. In fact, I think you could actually lower it just a little bit, it would even be more effective. You're looking for the focal point of all these panels here.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow. A little bit of engineering there.
I can't help it, I'm a geek.
Well,
Yeah, Tom, I'm kind of feeling you here. Almost 40 minutes past the witching hour, and we haven't heard from one of them. I'm worried about that.
well, like I said, I've lost all my comlinks, my core links. Convict.
Have they been calling in up to DC as well?
I don't know, I haven't been following that one, but yeah, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
They get a lot. You know, I got to see them flipping the light switches up there when I was up there on Memorial Day.
What is it?
Yeah, I went up there that Monday. I did the walk with Nikki from down in front of the Capitol over to the jail, about 2 miles. And the hecklers were there the whole time.
Oh, really?
2 people. The one lady was just obnoxious as hell. She would say all kinds of things like, F Ashley Babbitt, F Ashley Babbitt, you know, stuff like that. Of course, Mickey Whithoff, her mom was there.
Yeah.
You know those people get paid $25 an hour to do that, right?
They get paid something, I'm sure of it.
$25 an hour. There was some folks that were demonstrating an advertisement for employment. And they pay you $25 an hour to go off and just do bad things.
There's no more than a few of them like that, look for a van up there and throw a couple of bags, you know, throw it down the hedge and toss them in the van and turn them so one drop them, you know? The heckers, I hate that stuff, man. Hey, that'd be a fight right there. That'd be a fight.
Uh-huh.
Shut up, man. Why you create drama?
Yep.
So when you get a bunch of people that have never seen anything on the northern side of minimum wage, you're gonna give them $25 an hour to go topple statues and whatever else. It's not hard to imagine that people that don't have an education can be bought. Straight up,
Oh,
they
yeah.
can be bought. In fact, that's another topic that I think we ought to talk about at some point. It's not a J6 topic, but it is one that we ought to talk about.
You wanna talk about it now?
Sure.
So, just some hard numbers. The reality is that a never-ending increase in population is not sustainable. The ball that we all live on has only been so big. And it turns out that if you do the science, we do need a certain amount of space per individual, and it's not just your living room. So, it turns out that when you look at the numbers, the people that have an education are not reproducing at a rate that would sustain their percentage of the population. That's because they're educated. I'll get into that in a little bit. However, the people that don't have an education, and this is largely in third world countries, I won't quote my president on that, but there are places that just don't have access to the level of education that we used to have here. And so the uneducated people of the earth are multiplying out of control. So the educated people aren't, the uneducated people are. And we've got those elites that think that we need to have population control by use of vaccines. But given that the educated people are not reproducing fast and the uneducated people are, perhaps education is the answer and the population would be self-controlling if we just pursued universal education globally. It just strikes me that we got some people out there that have an awful lot of money. They probably have a lot of brains that are focused on things that aren't good for the rest of us. And maybe it would be better if they would just let Mother Nature take its course and not worry about their intervention. Just something to think about.
You've obviously been gestating that one for a little while, so definitely something to think about. My concern is that this whole COVID thing was a test.
Yes.
Just to find out how far can we push the population, how much can we lock things down, how much can we control the winners and losers. We can keep the liquor stores and the Walmarts open, but shut down the mom and pop businesses. And I think that, as usual, people will forget about it eventually, but that's where we have to stand up and not allow that to happen, because they will try it again.
What were we talking about with the instructional compliance? What was it? Yeah, just yesterday, I think.
Yeah,
remember what I'm talking about, though?
You wanna come on up?
This is where I'm gonna catch over you guys. So we watching Newsmax this week?
What's that?
We watching Newsmax this week?
A little bit.
They're putting it on Biden and Hunter.
Yeah. They're definitely putting it on, but Durham, I don't know, it feels like Durham just really left a lot on the table on Dunn. At the same time, he did call out the FBI as being pretty much, a bunch of bumbling idiots. So maybe that'll do something.
Yeah, that's like I was saying earlier, there's people that are just tuning into the program that haven't been watching it for the years that we all have. So my question is what are they seeing? Because a lot of the stuff, how many days do you go through the news and you say, well, this is just a different variation on the stuff I read yesterday and the day before? So a lot of it is more of the same, and so it's really not necessarily targeted towards us. I'm seeing more and more posts on various social media outlets that truly appear to be people that are new to the program making comments and sharing posts and information that we've known for 2, 3, 4, 5 years or longer. So while I see some people that will go off and bash these people for making relatively naive comments, I look at it and I'm like, we've got another one that's waking up. The people out there are waking up to what's going on, and I've said this before.
no matter what we think of each other in this country, we're all Americans. And as soon as we can all figure out how to reconcile that one fact, God help them. It'll all be over. But we need to get to that point. And I don't mean that one group needs to capitulate to the other. That's not how that works. We need to get to where everybody can at least respect each other. And maybe understand that it is possible to have totally different opinions and still have a common enemy.
So I just got a text message from Debbie.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not important.
Okay, but anyway.
We have a problem in our neighborhood, Northumberland, Reedville. We have a bear that has been roaming around, and apparently it's a female, has 2 cubs, and she was spotted on the beach today.
Wow. Ouch. That's scary because
So,
a bear with cubs is dangerous.
And then the other day, she was spotted on the road really close to our house, so it's really scary.
Be cautious.
So they named her Georgette.
What's the last time that a bear was seen in the northern neck? I mean, because they've got a long ways to come to get here, don't they?
It's been a few years. Larry's got an answer for you.
Yeah, here.
It's been in the record today, the Rappahannock record. It's in today.
Around the year 2000, a bear was at my house in Montrose. I actually came in the yard and I had about 6, 8 dogs inside and chased him up the tree, and my wife looked out the window and scared to death. And it was the glass window of the door, and finally the dog disappeared and went off after tired of barking, and the German Shepherd stood there and kept looking at it, and the bear came down the tree, and it very gently walked towards the woods, and the German Shepherd put his front paws on his back and walked him down the woods. So evidently he's been at the house before, because I have feeding stations for my dogs inside, you know. But the bear went on, and it was it.
Yeah.
No drama. So I think the bear is much safer than having a Democrat running around in the yard or Noah Nick running around crazy, right?
Yeah.
So we're safe
What
with
you
the
say,
bear.
Larry? Yes.
So I did, other words, I did post my, send my Congressman, Rod Woodman, an email yesterday concerning about the situation with Joe Biden and
Yeah.
Hunter, what's going on. So I said, get on top of this. It's very important. People in Northern Neck are tired of it. We want you to do something. Get with Jim Jordan and his preaching. The Congress lady had, I can't remember her name, some Congresswoman has put in impeachment proceedings.
Bober.
Y'all recall?
Yeah. Lauren Boebert.
Okay. So it's got that started. So hopefully I said, get on board and let's get it done. So hopefully something will happen. I'm impressing him all the time to do.
So I worry about him.
Yeah, I do too, but that's why we gotta stay on him.
So, and on that particular note, you know, when they were doing the TV show that was the election of the Speaker of the House, that was it. It was a TV show. The outcome was predetermined, and he didn't even try to make a good showing and at least appear to protest with a vote against our current Speaker of the House. It would have only cost him 1 cycle. He only had to do it once to look like he had a little bit of backbone, but he didn't. He failed. You know, I'm not a fan of McCarthy. A, he's a politician. B, he's a Californian. Right there, that's an automatic failure for me.
That's right.
But, you know, how hard would it have been, and we were just talking about Tatum, how he's willing to put his rights on the line to tell the truth, and yet we've got elected officials that can't even come close to equaling that. That's just terrible. So,
And also he caved in on the board with ceiling too, the debt ceiling.
yeah. So,
People know that really ticked off on that. I talked to a lot of people.
you know, and you've got a really good point. Voting in favor of this debt ceiling bill, that was garbage. I long for the day when the United States defaults. Because you gotta understand something. Me and you, we don't default.
Right.
In that scenario, it's just the government that defaults. It's not we the people. It's just the government defaulting because they overspent our money. And it's, hey, if they go down the tubes for it, great.
That's great. I challenge somebody with red helmets to come in here and try to take my stuff. Blue helmets, I'm sorry. The blue helmets, the baby blue helmets from the UN.
Yeah.
That's, you know, they've got a base down there in the Dam Neck area. That's not
Red
cool.
is good, blue is bad.
Is it the Dam Neck area? It's down there in the Virginia Beach, Dam Neck, that whole, that
Yeah.
section down there. And people get a little bit upset if you call it by the wrong name, but it's like right there across the street, one way or the other. Anyway.
Blue helmets.
Blue helmets.
Yeah, yeah.
Blue helmets, that's UN people. UN's military, and they actually have an installation here on US territory.
They do.
And
You guys get your J6 bracelet, you ever one of these?
I can order one from my wife.
No, that's Ashley's.
That's an Ashley?
Yeah.
bracelet?
Actually, yeah. My
Yeah, I
mother
have
gave it to
one.
us that night, I've been
That's
wearing it
right.
ever since, I never take it off. So she gave it to me, it's the innocence.
Yeah, I have to take all my jewelry.
Should be
off.
there, you know, that's like, I remember growing up, in high school, everybody was wearing MIA bracelets for the Vietnam
Paul
vets.
wears his all the time as well. so.
I guess we got J6ers in 2023, don't we?
Yeah, so this comment, this is the J4J6, hashtag justice for Ashley is justice for all. And that's the website that Mickey Whithoff is forashley.com.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I got visitors.
I heard some good news recently. I heard that James Grant, who Randy Ireland had set up a Give Send Go account for him,
Right.
and had raised like $10,000, but James had told us at one of these vigils that he'd only seen 4,000 of it. Apparently, he's seen the rest of it now. So Randy got that to him, so that's a good thing.
Oh,
Glad to hear
Awesome.
that about him. You know, that he's following through with that. So hopefully he's just was really, you know, struggling with keeping accounts straight, and he's going to make it all right in the end. I think that would be good. I think a lot of people would appreciate that. I sure would.
So guys, what do you want to do? It's what, 8:30?
Yeah, it's 8:21, and I'm thinking, if they haven't started calling now, they probably won't be able to. And 9 o'clock is only 40 minutes away, so.
Yeah. Well, I think I've got to do a better job this next week of trying to get people lined up to call us. And Sherry, are you communicating with anybody?
I wrote letters a few weeks ago, but
No emails or anything?
I haven't even done that email. I set it up, but I keep getting these messages they can no longer use the system.
Right, because when they move them.
Yeah.
That's what I've got now to do. Yeah.
So, I wonder, maybe that work you did in putting together your booklet of where they are and everything, I wonder if that needs to be updated so that we can find a way to reach out to them, and figure out how to reestablish comms if it's been broken.
I think it's probably just we get whoever we can and or their spouses and try to ask them to do that. So Barry's usually really good. I don't know what's up with that.
Speaking of their spouses, what we were saying over there across the street, we probably need to reach out and try to get a broader reach on spouses, girlfriends, fiancés.
Yep.
There's, I don't really, I'm speaking out my ass because I don't know exactly how to make that happen.
Well, we just need a couple of them, so maybe that's what we'll do is we'll just chase it down. What kind of chicken is it, Sherry?
I think it's a cross between a Phantom and a Easter egg.
Oh, man. It's homemade, huh?
Well, your chickens are really, really good-looking chickens. You take great care of them.
We may all be coming to you in the not too distant future for chickens and eggs.
Well, want to shut it down?
Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody for coming, and thank you everybody who might be tuning in or not. It was good for us to come together to do this. The reason we do this is for the January 6ers that went through Northern Newark Regional Jail, but we're also doing it for the people that are still in that jail, and we're calling attention to it. Let me just finish with this. We're calling attention to the situation that exists inside of that jail. So
Yeah, was that an awesome article or what? Man,
The Northern Neck Sentinel, June edition, front page center, the two faces of Captain English. Captain English is the head of security at the jail. He reports directly to Ted Hall. Captain English is the one who's responsible for what happens in terms of the corrections officers and how they treat the prisoners. So it's a great article, nnsentinel.com. But Captain English happens to be a member of the Warsaw Town Council. And I've got to think that this magazine that's floating around town now for the last 3 weeks,
Several weeks,
or at least almost 3 weeks,
yeah.
is definitely getting some attention. And I don't wish any harm on anyone, including Captain English, but I think he has a lot of questions he needs to answer for what he's done at the Northern Neck Regional Jail and what other people have done. So we're going to keep turning up the pressure. Come to the jail board meeting next time, and let's give it to him.
Anybody else?
All right, thanks everyone. God bless America.
Thank you. God bless.
Oh, we can. It's a little early, but
We got some cops trying to break in the video.
Oh, the door's broken, and so they're,
Humidity.
yeah. Hopefully nobody's trapped inside there. We're gonna sing the national anthem to the small flags. This is what we got. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the firelight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Woo! USA!
Somehow I think we started off on a note that was
USA!
too high for my anatomy to reach. Just saying.
That's all right. It sounded good. That's all that
Sounded
matters.
good.
You did your job.
you did the job.
Yeah. Job well done.
Yeah. So it's been a busy couple of months. I think,